This should be 7 people. Alright. You can set it down there. Alright.
You need to tilt it a little so you get the table.
Yeah, do that. Working in the horticulture and landscape industry for over 10 years, I've seen the do's and don'ts with planting trees. There are several planting procedures that should be taken into consideration and, if done correctly, can help to increase the health and success of a tree. It is also very important to stick to a watering schedule and, most of all, doing research to know which trees do well in your area. Trees come in all shapes and sizes: shade trees, ornamental trees, evergreens, and they all serve different purposes within a landscape. Shade trees not only provide shade, but they can also help with your energy bills in the summer and can even increase property values. There are several varieties of these trees to choose from. They can range anywhere from 20 foot tall to 100 foot tall at maturity, and can have all sorts of attractive coloring in the leaves during the fall season. Ornamental trees provide a great sense of color and interest in the landscape. They include a wide range of sizes and growth habits. Some double as shade trees, such as ornamental pears, and while others won't reach a height of over 10 foot. There are also varieties that grow in an upright shape, and then others that are considered weeping trees that their branches will drape downwards. The huge splash of color of most of the ornamental trees is the reason why they are so sought after. Not just the flower colors that include whites, pinks, purples, and reds, to name a few, but also the wide range of lime green, reds, purples, and blues in the leaves throughout the growing season. Evergreens are important in landscapes due to their year-round interest. They come in all shapes and size, in every shape and size imaginable. Unlike deciduous trees, evergreens will keep their foliage all year round, and they add a different texture to the landscape. They can also be used as a wind block for the strong winds that we get here in the Midwest. When planting a tree, it is first important to pay attention to the outside temperatures along with soil temperatures. If it is 90 degrees or hotter outside, it is unwise to plant trees at this time. The extreme heat can stress a tree and increase the likelihood of shock. If you are planting a tree during hot weather, try planting in the mornings or evenings when the temperatures are cooler. Soil temperatures are also important. In the spring, it is best to plant when the soil temps rise above 45 degrees, while the same goes in the fall. On MLive.com, an article written by John Hogan with the Grand Rapids Express explains that when planting a tree in the fall, soil temps will usually remain warm enough to support root growth clear into November and December. When buying a tree from your local garden center, they normally come in either buckets, wrapped in burlap, or bare root. I personally am not a big fan of bare root trees, and these are becoming less available among suppliers in this industry. Trees wrapped in burlap normally include the larger trees. These trees have a wire basket around the root ball, and it is advised to remove this wire basket, or remove as much of this wire basket as possible when planting. Planting trees from buckets is the most common. The main thing to pay attention to with these is to break up or rough up the roots on the outer edge of the root ball. When these trees start their lives in buckets, the roots will begin to grow in a circular pattern and become root bound. If the roots are not roughed up, they can continue growing in a circular pattern, which can later hinder its growth. This is an example of a tree that is root bound, and the roots are going in a circular motion. Digging a hole a sizable amount larger than the root ball is also advised. This helps the roots to begin getting established and also prevents too much water retention. Using a compost blend when planting can also improve the success of the tree. Don't forget to mulch. This helps retain moisture and will help keep the root system warm during the winter. The Missouri Department of Conservation has a great example on proper tree planting. Be sure to not mulch up to the trunk. Leave about 3 to 4 inches of space between the mulch and the trunk to avoid rotting and insect issues, such as the example here. Let's see. Finally, you will want to stake your tree if it will be exposed to a lot of wind. This helps to stabilize the tree until it can root in. After about a year, remove the stakes, If the stakes are left on, the wire can dig into the tree and eventually cut off its circulation and kill it or cause severe damage. Watering is the most important aspect to keeping a tree healthy. Overwatering is just as common as underwatering, so it is crucial to do a bit of research on a new tree to determine whether it requires more or less water to remain healthy. Once that is done, create a watering schedule to follow. Pay attention to the weather too. If we get a good rain, you may not need to water for a few days, but if we get a long span of hot temperatures, your tree may require more water. Some trees like having a lot of water, but others like to almost be completely dry before the next watering occurs. The best way to water is to allow the water to penetrate deep into the ground. Set a hose next to the base of the tree and turn it on to a slow trickle for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of your tree. If you're still unsure about when to water, a trick that I use is to stick a long stake or a screwdriver into the ground next to the root ball. When you pull that out, if there's any soil particles sticking to the end of that screwdriver or stake, then you know that there is still plenty of moisture in the ground for that tree. According to an article by the Arbor Day Foundation, they state that after your tree has been established in your yard for 2 years, the roots should be established and will allow your tree to withstand a wider range of water conditions, including on its own because it's developed a proper root structure. Here in the Midwest, there are many varieties of trees that are able to grow here. Before planting a tree, do some research and make sure you pick out a suitable one for your zone. Zones are based on how cold it gets in the winter and whether certain plants or trees will survive in a given zone. Some of the shade trees that grow in this area include maples, oaks, sycamores, lindens, elms, pistaches, and cottonwoods, among many others. Some ornamental trees include Japanese maples, ornamental pears, redbuds, crabapples, and dogwoods. Finally, a few evergreens that grow in this area include pines, spruces, and cedars. All of these trees come in dozens of varieties that differ from one another by mature size, growth habits, leaf shape, color, and whether they can adapt better than others in any given climate. As you can see, there are a lot of important things to consider when planting a tree to ensure the health and success of it, but it is something that just about anybody can do with the proper knowledge and research. Thank you.
Very good.